Hi, everybody. Chris McCabe back for another Amazon suspension trend. We here at e-commerce Chris have seen some pretty crazy trends over the last weeks and months, and I'm trying to prevent people from getting themselves in a very bad position with appeals after submitting previously rejected or poor appeals, or in this particular case, having an appeal accepted, but you don't follow through on any of the steps. After, let's say, you receive a policy warning, they flag you. It could be a restricted products listing warning. It could be a policy violation. It could be behavioral. It could be code of conduct. Anytime you appeal, assume that it's written in stone and anyone can go back to that appeal any day, any moment, any time, especially if they think that once you've submitted that appeal and they've accepted it, if they believe that you didn't hold up your end, you didn't follow through with any of those steps, that can come back to haunt you. I've seen an increasingly number of cases where, as you know, there's the account health assurance program where they don't suspend you right away. They give you 72 hours, right? Before they take your account down. They don't do the lightning quick suspensions as much anymore. I've seen numerous cases where people countered those potential account suspensions with an appeal, and Amazon was willing to accept it. They liked what was in the appeal. Maybe they don't send you a message or call you and say, hey, this appeal is great. Let me tell you exactly how or exactly why, but they just accept it. And for their own reasons, they annotate your account however they see fit, and they clear you of that offense or that problem. And maybe you've got good account health, good history of being policy compliant, and everything's wonderful. But they can see that appeal in your account. You've committed to taking those steps. You can't just instantly forget or ignore the fact that they accepted it and the specifics of those appeals. I've talked to some brands lately, and not small brands and not new brands that have not been around the block with Amazon. I've talked to some brands lately that have been through appealing things before, sometimes on their own, sometimes with us. I've talked to some brands that might have been around for a while and not had to appeal that much, but they grabbed a bunch of content, maybe that they came up with or that their friend came up with. Some of them work with agencies that say, hey, we did this for another brand. Why don't you try out this bulleted list, this, proactive solution chart, whatever it might have been. They put it in their appeal. They didn't even really remember putting it in there, or maybe they didn't even know it was there in some extreme cases. But as long as it cleared their account health violation, or it got Amazon off their backs, they were okay using it, and they were happy that it worked, and they put it behind them without realizing that they had to follow through with all those promises. You can't send Amazon a list of promises, encourage them to believe that specific details you put in there were executed, did happen, played out the way you said they would play out, implemented as promised, without taking any of those steps and without making sure they're effective. Maybe you did attempt some of those things and you forgot about it after a while, or maybe you monitored certain things you said you would monitor, or maybe you swapped out some employees and you trained the old employees, but not so much the new ones. Whatever it is, you have to make sure those steps and those promises you made are effective and efficient and working the way that you promised, but also the way that you said they would work. And you probably said, we're going to make sure that it works by having management involved, by having ownership involved, by having our compliance teams involved. Keep in mind that if you're working with an agency, most of them don't have compliance trained personnel. Some of them do, some of them don't. But what are they doing specifically? You have to be aware of what your agency is doing on your behalf. Is it working? You can't just flip it over to them and say, well, we're hoping for the best. We hope they know what they're doing. Even though we are the sellers of record, even though we're the owners of record on this account, if something goes wrong, we will just throw our agency under the bus and say they didn't know what they were doing, but we'll be better off, handling this on our own in the future. That's not going to be good enough the second time around. And that's what I'm driving at in today's suspension trend video. You have to make sure that you are taking responsibility for what your own people do, for what you do, for what your previous appeal said and what your previous appeal promised, or a third-party service. If they're responsible for implementing your appeal, one that Amazon read and accepted, you're on the hook for that, right? You can't just point fingers when things go wrong. They expect somebody to take responsibility if that appeal and if those processes weren't implemented, or they weren't implemented properly, or they weren't implemented effectively. It is not just words on a page. I can't tell you how many sellers have approached us and continue to approach us. Hey, I heard I need a plan of action. Just dash something else off that you did for somebody else that you knew in a similar situation. Give us the same document. We will just, maybe make some tweaks to it, fill in some blanks, and send it into Amazon. This is not what appeals are about at Amazon anymore. Most of the time, they don't ask for a plan of action anymore. If they do, it's under certain circumstances for specific cases. They understood that sellers were just kind of parroting what they wanted to hear. And now they take offense to that. And now they punish people for that. And honestly, they think that you just didn't feel like doing your homework, so you copied your friend's homework. That's the easiest way to think of this. Or you didn't copy somebody else's homework, but you just did a quick Google search, grabbed somebody out there that said they work on appeals all day. You assumed they knew what they were talking about. You assumed it would be a one and done situation. And it's just a rote exercise where Amazon wants you to pretend that you're doing certain changes or improvements, and you're going to pretend it, and you're going to put those words on a page, and then you're going to file it away and forget about it. That's not how this works. That's not, especially for policy violations or for things like review manipulation or code of conduct where they think you're improperly soliciting information from buyers. There's new messaging around that Amazon's pumping out. Don't ask people for private information or for personal information. They don't like how people are collating email addresses or physical addresses, or offering free product or offering giveaways under certain, in a contest or in a raffle. All the gimmicks and all the shortcuts and all the, kind of like, well, we found some marketing company online and they say they got a bunch of people, better sales rank and better product reviews. Amazon's obviously cracking down on this stuff. That's number one thing that you need to know. But number two, you need to know how to appeal it so you don't get in their crosshairs. If you start acting like you didn't take prior appeals processes seriously, then you'll have a much harder time convincing them that you take the current appeals seriously. Or they'll just assume in a knee-jerk style that you're once again just telling them something that they want to hear, or that you're once again shopping for a template from some service or company out there that just throws this stuff at you without really tailoring it to your specific situation. Obviously, they can tell, right? Just like they presumably have tools that can tell if you're throwing ChatGPT or AI-based content at them. Of course they do. Of course they're conscious of this stuff. So this would be a situation where, you want to work with them in a way that gives them what they need, but also demonstrates to them that you take it seriously and that you know what you're doing. Don't take them for granted. Do not underestimate them. If you have to think of my former team's policy enforcement, seller performance as an adversary, I don't really encourage that generally. But if you think of them as they might take my account away, they are my adversary, fine. Do not underestimate your adversary. What have we seen in history when people underestimate their adversaries? Bad things happen, and lots of regret, lots of remorse. And in the case of appeals, I hear from a lot of people who have appealed 5, 6, 7 times, thinking that they understood the process, thinking that it was easy, or that it could be accomplished quickly and easily and cheaply. That's not what Amazon is anymore. Amazon has a lot of benefit to themselves. Out of their own self-interest, they can be heavy-handed and harsh with people. They can deny a lot of appeals. They don't have a higher authority that they need to necessarily answer to when they reject appeals over and over and deny them all day. They don't have to really answer to that many people for that. And the seller community can complain publicly, post things on the forums. Keep in mind that publicly complaining gives and it takes away. Tweets might get their attention, but it might get the wrong type of attention, or social media posts. I think I saw a few things on Instagram. You can use these channels. You can post things on LinkedIn, but you get the good with the bad. It's not uniformly positive to do that. You still can't, create a workaround to doing an effective appeal getting it in front of the right people the right way. If you think that there are shortcuts out there, I don't see them. And I've been working on this every day for 10 years. You have to put in the time, you have to put in the work, and you have to get Amazon to take you seriously. Any questions on this, please let me know. You can always write to me at support@ecommercechris.com, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you.